I'll never forget that day at my restaurant. It started like any other. Customers coming and going, the sound of plates clinking, and the smell of freshly cooked food filling the air. As the owner, I usually floated around, making sure everything ran smoothly. But that day, something happened that stayed with me forever. It was around lunchtime when a man walked in. He was dressed sharply, probably in his late 40s, with an air of self-importance about him. He glanced around and found a corner table, sitting down with an impatient look. I nodded at him as I often did with new customers, but he didn't acknowledge me. Jake, one of our waiters, went to take his order. Jake is one of the best people I know, kind-hearted, hard-working, and always professional. But there's one thing about Jake that might matter to some people, though it shouldn't. Jake is black. From across the room, I could immediately sense the tension as Jake approached the man. The man frowned and leaned back in his chair, as if Jake's presence somehow offended him. I moved closer, just within earshot, as Jake politely greeted him and handed over the menu. "I'd prefer someone else to take my order," the man said coldly, his voice low but sharp. Jake paused for a moment, probably to make sure he'd heard right. Then, staying calm, he asked, "Is there something wrong, sir?" I said, "I don't want you serving me," the man replied, now louder, attracting the attention of other customers. "Get someone else. Someone suitable." Jake stood there, his composure unwavering, though I could see the hurt in his eyes. He didn't say a word, just nodded slightly and walked back toward the kitchen. I could feel the weight of that brief interaction, and I knew how much it had hurt him. It wasn't the first time Jake had faced such behavior, and sadly, it probably wouldn't be the last. I knew I had to step in. I wasn't just the owner, I was also a black man who had faced his share of such moments. But more than that, this restaurant was my dream, my pride, and my responsibility. I wasn't about to let someone bring their hate into a place meant for warmth and community. I walked over to the man's table, forcing a calm smile, even though I was boiling inside. "Good afternoon, sir," I said. "I understand there's an issue with the service?" He looked me up and down, clearly unimpressed. "Yes," he said curtly. "I'd prefer if someone else took my order, not that guy." "I see," I said, sitting down across from him. "May I ask why?" He hesitated, probably not expecting me to question him. "I just don't feel comfortable, that's all." I leaned in slightly, lowering my voice. "Jake is one of our best waiters. He's polite, efficient, and knows the menu better than anyone here. If you're uncomfortable with him, I'm afraid that says more about you than him." The man stiffened, his face turning red. "Are you accusing me of something?" "I don't need to accuse you of anything, sir," I said calmly. "Your actions speak loud enough, but let me make one thing clear. Jake works here because he's excellent at his job, and this restaurant operates on respect. For everyone." He scoffed, pushing his chair back as if he was about to leave. "I'll take my business elsewhere." Before he could stand, I added, "By the way, I'm the owner. This restaurant? It's mine. So when you choose to walk out that door, you're walking away from the dream of a black man who built this place with his own 2 hands. And when you insult Jake, you insult me too." For a moment, he just stared at me. Maybe he expected me to back down or apologize. Instead, I held his gaze, letting him sit with the weight of his own behavior. To my surprise, he didn't leave. Instead, he sat back down, his face a mix of shame and anger. "Fine," he muttered. "I'll stay, but get me another waiter." "I'm sorry, sir," I said, standing up, "but that won't be possible. If you can't respect Jake, we won't be able to serve you. You're welcome to leave whenever you like." He didn't say another word. He sat there for a few minutes, glancing around awkwardly as other customers whispered and watched. Eventually, he got up and left, slamming the door on his way out. Jake came up to me afterward, concern etched on his face. "I'm sorry you had to deal with that," he said softly. I shook my head. "No, Jake, I'm sorry you had to deal with it, but I'm proud of how you handled it. You didn't let him shake you. That day wasn't just about standing up for Jake or myself. It was about making sure that our restaurant remained a space where everyone, staff and customers alike, felt valued and respected." And as I looked around at the other diners who smiled at Jake and gave me encouraging nods, I knew we had done the right thing. Hate has no place in a world built on kindness, and as long as I had a say in it, it wouldn't have a place in my restaurant either. That day was an incredible experience for me, and I realized that the incident didn't just involve the conflict between Jake and the customer, but it redefined the principles and values of our entire restaurant. Days passed, but the impact of that event was gradually felt by all our staff. Jake, more confident than ever, and not only him but all the other staff members were inspired by that incident. We decided we wouldn't tolerate any kind of such behavior in our restaurant, whether it was directed at employees or customers. One day, a neighboring business owner called me to his restaurant. He was also black, and he said that since that day, he would always show respect to my restaurant. He told me, "What you did wasn't just an exemplary act. It was a step we all need to take. We all need to come together to fight hate and discrimination, and you showed that we can stand up to it." I thanked him and realized that this victory wasn't just mine, but it was the victory of our whole team. We were like a family, standing by each other no matter how tough the outside world got. After that day, I held a special meeting for the staff. Together, we decided that not only would we work to bring about positive change in our workplace, but we'd also work toward making a difference in society. We would treat every customer with equal respect and stand against any form of discrimination. We also decided to make our restaurant a place where everyone would be warmly welcomed, no matter their race, color, or religion. We improved our service and made sure that every staff member knew their rights so that they could take the right steps in any situation. Time passed, and gradually our restaurant became more popular. Not only did we serve excellent food, but the atmosphere we created was also special, a place where everyone felt safe and respected. One day, that same customer came back to the restaurant. This time, he came in a very different manner. He shook my hand and said, "What you said to me that day was a turning point in my life. I thought long and hard, and I realized my mindset was wrong. I now understand that we should respect one another. I want to thank you and Jake." I smiled and said, "We're all human, and we need to learn from and support each other. I'm glad you took that step, but the most important thing is that we're all in this together. That's the true strength of our community and our restaurant." He nodded and sat down to eat in our restaurant. That day was another memorable moment for me because I saw how that person had changed in his heart. It wasn't just our victory, but a small beginning of positive change in society. Eventually, my restaurant became more than just a place. It became an idea that taught that we must stand together against hate and discrimination. Our restaurant became a symbol, a place where everyone is treated with respect and love, and where no one ever feels disrespected. I was proud that I had fulfilled my responsibility and shown that we all need to live with respect and empathy for each other. And as long as I was there, hate and discrimination would have no place in my restaurant.